Did you know that something as small and ordinary as a postage stamp once shook an empire to its very core? It's true! And today, we're diving into one of the most unexpected stories you might have never heard. The story of the stamp that changed an empire. The origins of this tale trace back to 1765, a tense time in history when the British Empire was imposing new measures to fund its extensive military campaigns. Britain, already stretched thin financially, turned its gaze toward its American colonies. The colonies had been valuable sources of revenue, but Britain wanted more, much more. To make up for their financial losses, Parliament passed a new law called the Stamp Act. This legislation required colonists to purchase special paper and stamps for everything from newspapers to playing cards to legal documents. It might have seemed small, but to the people in the colonies, this was an audacious move. Why? Well, it wasn't just about money. Colonists were already frustrated. They felt they were being taxed without having any representation in Parliament. No taxation without representation became more than just a slogan. It became the rallying cry of the discontented. And this stamp, it was more than a tax. It was a symbol of injustice. What followed can only be described as electric. The colonists didn't sit back and accept the law. Instead, they fought back. Merchants started organizing boycotts, refusing to use British goods as a protest measure. Meanwhile, pamphlets condemning the Stamp Act spread like wildfire, fanning the flames of rebellion. Ordinary citizens held mass demonstrations in public squares. One of the most notable groups to emerge was the Sons of Liberty. Yes, the same group that would later help organize the Boston Tea Party. They passionately rallied against the act and took direct action to make their opposition known. Printing presses became pivotal in this rebellion. Newspapers and broadsheets were printed en masse to educate colonists about the taxation injustice, unifying their grievances into a collective uprising. What's incredible is how the image of the stamp, a small, unassuming piece of paper, became a potent symbol of resistance across the colonies. But it didn't end there. British officials in charge of collecting the stamp taxes became the targets of public outrage. Effigies were burned, offices were ransacked, stamp paper was seized or destroyed. A stamp tax that was supposed to bring in money instead ignited more unrest than anyone could have predicted. So, how did the story end? Just a year later, in 1766, the British government repealed the Stamp Act. Yet the damage was done. Because of that single stamp and the issue it represented, colonial unity was strengthened, setting the stage for further resistance against British rule. The rebellion didn't stop at this one law. It evolved into a movement that would, within a decade, lead to full-blown revolution. Today, the story of the Stamp Act reminds us that history isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's the smallest things, a postage stamp, a seemingly minor law, that changed the course of nations and shaped the world as we know it. So, the next time you glance at a postage stamp, think about its legacy, because even the tiniest objects can hold the weight of history and inspire movements of change. Fascinating, right? Make sure to hit that like button if this story surprised you, and share it with someone who loves stories from history's forgotten corners.